Hi, and welcome back to the drag and draw program. I didn't start out thinking I'd make a two-part intro. I really thought I'd just handle the rest of it with individual videos on each of the various panels, but as I thought about it, I realized there's a lot of stuff I skipped over for sake of time that just isn't going to fit into some of the other videos very well. So this is more of a supplement than really a part two. So let me just go through some of these features that I think are important that, like I say, won't fit very well. We start here with the toolbar. You can load an image. You double click on it, pick an image, and now it's loaded in. Then you can add to that image. Here's a text thing I did. You can move it around. If you hold down the shift key, you can resize it, move it some more, find a spot where it'll show up a little bit, and either double click on it, or if you're afraid that it'll wiggle when you do that, and you should be, you can hit Control Enter. So then that's been added to your picture, and you can keep adding stuff. You can also undo things. When you get done, if you want to save your picture, you have to click on Save. Now, I did talk about this a little bit. The reason for that is because the canvas on top here is the image is not on the top canvas, so you would just save a blank. So this exposes it. You can right-click on it and save as. Really the easiest way to do that. It uses your file system. I could have potentially done some stuff, but anyway, this is really fine. I'm just going to cancel here. When you're done saving, you hide it. All right. Another thing that this program does pretty well. Let me just create a new one here. Or it does anyway. Is it provides a background. Now, the background color is used for transparency. So let me pick a brush and transparent color. All the default values over here are half transparencies of whatever's been selected over here. So then I can start drawing. Now, when you draw with a transparent color, it just keeps adding up. So you can see the spot here in the middle is darker. If I take the background off, I guess you can still see that it's darker, but it's darker because it's less transparent. So that would be the importance of this. The reason, but you can also, if you don't like the 10, you can change that to a larger box. If you want a solid background, pick anything less than 5, and it just gives you the background color, which in this case is white. That's background color, and then there was that contrast color. Now here I need to bring up a little bit about color, not really color theory, but color notation. If you're familiar with the old hex color scheme, then you notice that that in the abbreviations that FFF is an abbreviation for FF, or all 3 channels on. I've allowed for some other abbreviations. In fact, I've actually allowed for you not to have to use the pound sign at all. So if I just put an F here, that expands out to all 3 channels, and we still have white. So if I pick another number here, we get gray. So with a single digit, you get 16 shades of gray, and that is not transparent. If I move to the top, you can see that it's opaque. 2 digits, you get 16 shades of gray and 16 shades of transparency. So I click out of the box, defocus it. You can see we have a roughly half transparent, half black background. 3 digits, you get back to standard abbreviation. So go with ACE blue here. You can see that that's ACE, and that's the same thing as pound sign ASE. This is a portable abbreviation, but of course allowed for transparency on that. So if we go with say 7 on that, we get a halfish transparent ACE blue. 4 digits isn't gonna do anything for you. 4 or 5. But if we now go all the way to 6, so we go AACCEE, then we get, well, the same thing again, except of course this time it's not transparent. And that's also normal. But then I've also added the 4th channel, and we're back to that again. So if you want a background color that's just gray or something, you can do that in a single digit. If you want, if you need a fairly simple color, you can just put in the 3 digits. If you want that transparent for whatever reason, you can do that with 4 digits. And of course, it also just takes standard input. One other thing that you can do that can be very convenient is if you want this background color here, you pick it, you put it in the sorter, and we'll talk a little bit more about this kind of thing in a minute, but you can also just drop colors in there. So now you have that background. And if you wanted it transparent again for whatever reason, this is more of just for completeness sake. I don't know why that would be useful, but you can edit these values and or just pick them as transparent and then drop it in there and you have a transparent color. And of course you can do the same thing with a contrast field. If we go back to having a contrast field there, I could change those colors as well to anything I wanted. If that's not enough for you, let me store that. Oh, right, it is. Okay. You can also have a background image. Let's turn this off. Click on background image with a oh, okay. So that was hidden for some reason. All right. Click on background image. It usually pops to the top. I guess I'm not using. I didn't refresh right before I started. So you click on background image, and another toolbar appears right on top of the drawing bar normally. And you can also then load images from here again. So you pick this image. Now this image can then be behind everything. So, and you can move it around, of course. So you just flip it to bottom, and then you can move it wherever you want it to be. Now I don't know why you'd want a background image unless you wanted to like maybe trace something or whatever, or if you just wanted to see what something would look like when you draw it over the background image. But it's there, and since you want it at the bottom, I've allowed some special capabilities. If you want to move the background image after it's on the bottom, you just have to use the Alt key. Now remember, the Alt key just has to do with background images. So if I hold down the Alt key and Control key, I can move it. Remember, Control allows you to move canvases. If I hold down the Alt key and the Shift key, then I get resize, and that's even if it's on the bottom or whatever. Now, if I want to trace or something, and I get the, and I have to move the canvas around and say, okay, I like that spot right here, and you can snap it to it, so that if you do move the drawing board around, which you might, panels be in the way, or you want to look on a different area of a very large one, they'll move together. And it happened once where this was in the way. I had to, let me unsnap this for a second. I wanted a background image here, and I got to get to those buttons somehow. Okay, first off, you can take that off fixed and roll everything out of the way. Alright, so I had a situation, something like that, and that was getting in the way. So you could turn off the background bar and snap it back together, and now they're moving together. Background images. That's I don't know how useful it is, but it's there. You might as well know about it. The delay mode. Let me just start all over completely here. The delay mode is useful, for example, if you want to color in a large area, especially if you're wanting to color in a large area of transparent. So let's pick a wide flat brush and orange. Say we just want the whole background to be this orange, transparent orange, because solid colors will work. So you're covering up, but it's like you get, anytime you overlap a little bit, you have problems there. So you're trying to fill this thing in, and it's not working for you. So if I start over and put it in delay mode, then these strokes are all part of the same stroke, so you don't get the overlap. The only problem, of course, is that, well, I don't know if of course this is, but this is all, since it's all one stroke, you know, it's all one level of undo. So if I do undo, that's all gone. But that's one of the original purpose for the delay. It accumulates all your strokes as a single stroke, so you don't get that overlap effect. The other use of delay is the system brush. Now, when I use all these other brushes are things that I make. You can create the brushes with the editor. All these are custom brushes. They've all been created by the editor. Editor's really nice. You can actually probably make brushes almost as fast as you can pick one anyway. So that's why there's not a huge selection over here. I find I make brushes as often as anything else. The system brush is included because I also wanted to learn how to use the built-in system capabilities. So you can draw with draw lines, draw circles. You can fill circles and boxes, for that matter. You can and draw lines, you know, solid lines like that. You can even fill on the draw. You go like that, and it will complete the circle. This is actually kind of fun. You can do stuff like this. You can make an entire checkerboard all at once with a single stroke if you're really careful. But I can't use the system brush for everything. It doesn't. You can't read the colors that are under there. So mixing and a lot of other things I do wouldn't work very well. And you can't really demonstrate that very well here either. So if we go with say multiply, if I take it off delay, and let's get something dramatic. We get circles and filling. Okay. If I go with that, and then I pick another color, you just get the transparent. Let's go back to solid colors. You get individual strokes just go on top of each other. See, so which is, you know, a good behavior, but it's not taking advantage of the multiply mode. Now, if I do this again, start with a new drawing. If I put it in delay mode, then those various stroke effects kick in. So I get what's supposed to happen. Now, of course, with multiply, you're dealing with what's essentially additive math. But you see, you don't see that unless you're working on the same canvas the whole time. So that's what delay mode will do for you. Change that to, say, screen. Then now those first ones will work better. So yeah. And there's a lot of effects available through the system brush. I think I stumbled onto some of these myself as I was playing around with trying to get mixing and trying to get something to work all the time. You know, like I say, none of these will work all the time. As for color mixing, because they're either additive or subtractive. But you know, like color dodge, that one's fairly popular for some reason. It's not doing anything here right now for some reason, but destination out is kind of fun. It's essentially an eraser. Anyway, none of those effects will work if you keep layering in canvases. So delay helps with that. So take it out of delay, that finishes the stroke. It'll undo it once. Until you take yourself out of delay, you're not going to be able to pick colors. So, or at least not the current ones. So now I can pick. You can see that's totally blank. And then but you know, I ruined it. So if I go back into the delay, then that had no effect on the current drawing. So see, that's nice and solid. Let's see what effect this is. I've not become an expert on the effects. There, source at top. See, it's only going to write on existing stuff. This is like turning off the background, but you see it's not. It's completely ignoring everything in the previous layer. So that's the importance of delay. Again, remember that you're still working on the same stroke until you take it off of delay. This is going to undo everything in 2 undos, isn't it? Yeah. So that's about a problem. But for coloring in, you know, solid transparency, or for using the system brush, you know, so using the system brush in normal mode, you don't need delay. I mean, it's just over. If you want to overlay stuff anyway, then that's no problem. And in fact, even the transparencies will still work without delay, because transparency is transparent. It's just looking through. You're looking through multiple layers is the same thing as working out the math into a single layer, which is so that's the delay mode. Undo schemes. There are 3 panels that have undo. One we talked about a little bit here, which is undoing each stroke of your picture. Now, this is a pretty standard undo. As soon as I let's pick one of my own brushes. As soon as I put in another stroke, I'm recommitted myself to this path. You see that the redo button goes away. It's no longer available. I can still undo this one, and I can redo that one, but everything else is gone. I mean, this is standard. You know, this shouldn't be a huge disappointment to anybody except for me, because how many times if you go like, oh, undo, and then you just accidentally click or something, and you're like, oh shoot, I wanted to redo that. Well, it, you know, show of hands, you know, every hand's up, I'm sure. It doesn't happen to me all the time, but it does happen. So when I made the editor, I had a rare opportunity, because unlike this undo where I save redo strokes, this just resaves an image every time. So say I drew a brush here with and then I go, oh no, okay, I don't want to do that, so let me undo. Let me pick this instead and put that in here, and then this in here. So I'm not, you know, I haven't just destroyed everything. All changes are saved as an entire image, and they're inserted into the undo history. So even though I did some more stuff, you can see redo is still available. Now I can undo this and then redo that. But now if I hit redo again, I go back to this and this. So they're still available. If you just keep redoing past what you did, you'll go back. Everything you've ever done is always still available. I can even come back here, create a new brush. Usually going to want to make square brushes, because you can only rotate square brushes, but that isn't always the case. And then I can you know, pick another pin altogether, make a brush. I can use the brush and whatever. I can say no, undo. All right, go back to the beginning, and we can see the progression through everything we've ever done. So it can get a little confusing, I suppose, once you start taking advantage of it. If you didn't know it was there, you might not even ever notice. But you have some patience digging through there. No matter how far back you want to go, everything you've ever done is still there. Now I improved on that a little bit when I then made the text, you know, the add text box. This creates undos every time you hit a space or enter, or basically anytime you click undo. So I can undo the words and I can redo them. But this also inserts just like the other ones. So I go, oh no, that's not right. I can undo that, Undo that. Redo, redo. Now, this is where I've improved it slightly. When this redo turns orange, that means you're back to where you would normally be in a normal undo redo cycle, and that redoing from here now restores the previous stuff before the insert point. So we can undo, and from the beginning, if we redo, we can see what we did in the beginning. Then we can saw the middle stuff, not a lot of history. So it's because it's different, you got to be aware. I think it's better. I like it. If you don't like it, just carefully stay within the bounds of normal undos and redos. And you'll be fine. So let me undo that stuff, and then let me redo that stuff. See, everything's just fine. It's just that when it turned orange, you're going to start going into history and seeing the other stuff. So yeah, undo, redo. What can be dragged? All of the panels are movable. Even talked a bit about, you can make this one fixed, you can make it unfixed, move it around, unfix it, and fix it. It's yeah, I like it always being on top and always being available, but every so often it'll be in the way, especially if you've got a large image and you want to see the whole thing at once. You can take that off fixed and then scroll it out of the way, but you can't hide it, so your toolbar is always gonna be somewhere. And then you can, of course, you can always put everything back. If you can get to your toolbar, you can always put everything back using this button right here. The colors can be dragged. So if we pick and sort, hide this. If I pick some colors, holding down the shift key, they go into the sorter. If I want them in a different box, I can drag them by here. You want to drag them by this little tab. That's why it's here. A little tab past the end here. Because if you drag them in here, you're not going to get a drag. You're going to get a select, because you can edit these. So if you like the color but you want it transparent, you can change that to transparency. If you or just want to change the shade or whatever, go into the mode, change this to 90. You click on it and see what's over here. So that can be dragged around. The boxes themselves can be dragged around. If you want, if you need a new box, it inserts past the current box, and you can drag it here. And the only way you can even see this one move is because this one happened to be selected with a green border. Everything always picks right into whatever the current box is. Okay, so sometimes rendering problems occur. Not very often, mostly when I'm recording, but you can see what I did. You just move the mouse over it and it finishes rendering. Some browsers are better than others about that sort of thing too. Chrome seems to be one of the worst, but there's so many other things I like about Chrome that I'm sticking with it. Paintbrushes, they can be moved around. These are all just little canvases. If you drop a brush into an open area, it goes to the bottom. If you drop a brush over another brush, it inserts in front of it. Same thing with a tag. This isn't going to do anything, is it here? If I drop this on this tag, it'll insert in front of it. So the idea, of course, is that since you're going to be making custom brushes, if you want it to be with some other brushes of a similar type, you can arrange them. And since you can export brushes, if I click on export, get to the editor, see all those brushes are there. This is the actual brush file. I could load this directly into the brush file, and next time I fire it up, these brushes will load. For you, what you're going to do is select them all, save it to a text file somewhere, and then someday if you want to use these brushes again, you go online, you paste it into this box, and then you say import brushes, and they get added to whatever's in there. If you want to start over, you can clear the brushes. Of course, you'll get a dialog box, and then import just your set. Or if you want to just reset them to factory default, so to speak, you can hit that. And I'm going to probably hit that again pretty extensively in the brush tutorial, but I wanted to mention why. I'm just mentioning that. So these can be dragged around. That's about it. But one of the other targets is that let's fix this again so we can see it. Is this trash can up here on the toolbar. So if you don't want that color box anymore, it's gone. Hide this for a second. If you don't want this particular color, it's gone. If you're through with the brush, it's gone. So that's what this is, and that's all the places that those things can be dragged. That's what you can throw away. The other thing that this trash can does, though, is if you're in, say, in mix mode, get a standard brush if I have any left. Color with that color. Color with this color. Oh, I'm sorry. You have to be in rub. You in rub mode, it picks up the other colors. So let's pick something a little bit more dramatic here. All right, picks up the other color. So now when I start over again, it's still dirty from last time. Now, if you want it clean every time, you just use the clean button. If you just every so often want to clean it, just click on the trash can, and that cleans your brush off. All right. The other things that can be dragged are going back to the picker. Let's put that at the top. The sorter is that you can, when you get a set of colors you like, you can click on the custom button, and that puts them in as custom colors. We get another dramatically different set of colors here. I can just drag and drop that in there and get those custom colors. I can also say take this one, turn it into a palette, this one, turn it into a palette. They've both been added over here as palettes on the palette, and that means that I can now switch back and forth. So I can drag and drop these over here and change back and forth between palettes on the custom colors. I can also get a new box, bring that up a little bit so you can see it. I can drag these back in again. So, and then text out. If I take the current box, hit clicked out, now I have a text file. So I can save colors between sessions by just selecting this and then cut and paste it, copy paste it into Notepad or something, some text file, save it for next time. But I can also bring that back in by just dragging it. We have add and in. Add adds those colors to whatever the current box is. So this is gonna keep. Let's pick one that's gonna. So you can see the scroll bar is getting smaller and smaller because I'm adding the colors to that box. In is going to create it in a new box at the end here, but I can also just drag this into that box, or just drag it and let go in the open space, and I'll get it in a new box. So that's I think is it. You can drag this box here for custom colors. You can drag it here and create a palette. You can just drag it here and create the text out. Oh, I'm not going to give you much of a bounce. There we go. Or you can drag these all over the trash can. I've already done that with the color box directly. You even drag these to a trash can, which is, even though there's a clear button. So that's about it. Of course, when you're drawing, you're also dragging, but that's that's neither here nor there. Alert boxes. Several things that you do are undoable and somewhat destructive. So for those, I've created this alert box. I tried using the built-in alert boxes, but they're just not as much fun. This is better. For one thing, something else that can be dragged is you can move this around. For example, this says it will destroy your picture. You can leave this open and still save your picture. So it's not interfering. It's not waiting, locking you up. You have to make a decision before you do anything else. I mean, otherwise you'd have to say no, do your save, and then go back again. So that's a nice feature. What else? Clear will give you an alert box. The other advantage of making my own is that I can do something like this. So you say, oh, I got to get an alert box. So, oh yeah, I was going to get an alert box. You can just double click and the alert box goes away. So you hit this, you can either hit yes, or you can just double click, or of course you could have just double clicked in the first place. So any of the buttons that give you an alert box, you can just bypass them because the actual action you want is attached to the double click. So one last thing I'd just like to mention, really isn't anything about this program, but one of the problems with drawing on any online program, and a lot of even not so online programs, is that you're having to draw with a mouse. Now, I've heard that being compared to trying to draw with a potato in your hand, which really isn't fair because the mouse is fairly ergonomic. The problem is that 2 inches of mouse movement across your desktop will move your mouse all the way across the screen. So if you're drawing on a picture this size, I move my mouse, well, alright, maybe about 1.5 inches, and I've covered this whole thing. Which essentially means what I'm trying to do is draw on a postage stamp. Get a kind of a magnified view of it, but you really are trying to draw on a postage stamp. And that's why it's so frustrating. It took me a while to realize that's the problem. You think you're a good artist, you draw well on paper, you get on the computer, and it's just like, oh, I can't draw with a mouse. Now, what you want to do is just go into your mouse settings and customize them to fewer dots per inch, or just slower. And then make sure there's a lot of room on your desktop, and then you can get it down to a 1-for-1 movement on the mouse across your desk to the results on the screen. And the first time I tried that, I literally almost cried. I was so much better of an artist. I demonstrate that for you now, but I don't have a lot of room on my desktop, and then it makes it really frustrating to try to get to buttons and things like that. If you have a lot of room, it's not that big a deal, because if basically you need this much room on your desk, and then works pretty well. So anyhow, if you really need to know more about this stuff, and you should watch some of the other tutorials. I'll do one just on color picker. It's quite sophisticated. I do one on brushes, do one on the text editor. But if you've watched both videos, you should probably be able to do quite a bit with this program. So it's online, it's free to use. So feel free. If you have any suggestions for improvements, I'd love to hear about them. If you're just having fun with it, tell me about that too. So yeah, good luck and have fun.